All right, we'll start now. A new Mamer. This is the 20th Mamer in Likutei Torah Shir Hashimim. This is a follow-up to the previous Mamer. It gets to be a very long Mamer, but the Alter Rebbe, continues to explain a point he brought out in the end of the previous Mamer, in which he discusses that the level, there's two, the level of Atorah, she'itra lo'ima, doesn't need levushim, that doesn't need garments. You don't take it through Hasoge. In Gan Eden, when it comes down through the level of understanding, so there you need Ashrei Mishabolakam v'Talmud b'yod, you need garments in order to be able to receive that great light. But when it comes to the level Ba'Torah she'itra lo'ima, tze'eno re'eno b'noi siyen, through the level of Riyah, the Alter Rebbe is going to discuss how could it be that the higher level doesn't require levushim and the lower level will require levushim. It seems the other way. But it starts off with lahavin, which is also associated with this whole concept over here. He starts off the Maimer with lahavin inyan hatam, to understand the reason. Generally, we say that if the initial arousal, the saruso dilatato, comes from the person, it's a saruso dilatato, so then what he brings down, the saruso dilaelo, is a lasting. It's called v'yoldo zochar. It's like isho kisazriya. When the arousal comes from the Isha, when it comes from the human being, so then Yolda Zochar, then it gets a level of love, which is called like a male, which is a consistent and a permanent. But on the other hand, if it starts middle Milo, that Hashem gives you an arousal, it's not the person accomplishing it, so but then it's beyond the keva. Then the ava that you create is in the keva, which is associated with this point over here. Let's look inside. To understand the idea of the reason, to that shesarus or the le'ela habo. The arousal of above that comes after, that follows this rusulatato. How is this brought down in the pasuk? The pasuk says the isha kisazriya. It says a woman, when she is the one that is mazriya first, azai. So the pasuk says v'yolda zochar, she gives birth to a male. So when it comes from the Isha Dazrot Chilo, then there is a male over there. Shehi Chinas Rabba ben Nishamas. What does it mean, a male love, a type of love of a male? That's considered to be the great love that the Nishamas have, as expressed in the pasuk of Mili Bashamay, that who is there to me in the heavens, meaning that's the great level, the great love. Shaloi al manas lekabel pras, or it's also called serving Hashem not to get reward, to get a peace, but that's called lishma. If the love comes through isarusa delatato, you get ahava rabbe, and you get the level of lishma, lo al manas lekabel pras. Mashen kein his oirus ahava ben neshama habo. As opposed to when you have an arousal of the neshama which comes on its own from Hashem. It comes from above down to below, not through first having a seruso dilatato, not through isho kisazriya, but it comes directly from above. And that is what we call ish mazriya techila. And that it starts with the ish, not with the isho. So then there is only birth to a nikeva, to the feminine, that we don't have the masculine over there. Shubichinas ahavezuto, that is considered to be a small love. Al derech noshim daikum kal, similar to what we say that women, their mind is light. The reason what we say that their mind is light is because it's not consistent. They change their mind quickly. So that's why we call it a woman, a love that is a feminine. But that's the level of love in order to receive reward, which means you're doing it for a purpose, because you're doing it in order because you want to connect to Hashem. You want to enjoy to enjoy the ray of Hashem. So that's the purpose of it. That's me for your own interest, the person's benefit. So the love is a self-serving love, something that he enjoys. That's called the Ava Zutta. That's called the Ava, a feminine love. All this has been explained in the portion of Tazriya and the Mamer that starts with Seistos. So he says, what's the reason for this? Why is it that if it comes milmailo, it's not, it comes to Serusa Le'ela without proceeding first to Serusa Dilatato, it's not lasting, it's only a small level of love, it's Avazuta. It's legarmei, it's not lishma. But if it comes to Serusa Dilatato, then you get the higher Yidien Yoldozoch. So Vagam Lov and Atam, Lamasha Nizbar Le'il, also understand the reason what we earlier were explained. The Pirush Sen Oren Obenoisi and Kulubatora. So towards the end of the Maimer, we already explained that in order to see Ba'atorah, the level of Atorah, the level of Keser, he explained, Senoreno, then you go out of the Levushim. Shalirois, Ba'atorah, Sha'atro, She'itroloi Imoi, to see the crown that the mother crowned him, Shubichinas Keser, which is the level of Keser. Ain't tzarich levushim, but then you don't need levushim. Tzenoreno, you go out. Mashenkein hasoges hanishomis began Eden, but the grasping of the souls in Gan Eden, which is the time haTorah, shu b'chinas chokhma. That is the reason of the Torah level chokhma. Who davke al levushim, that is specifically through the garment. So how do you get? How the neshamas get their grasping in Gan Eden is dafke through garments. That's what he explained. But he said, klapi laya. Klapi laya is a language of the Gemara. It's the opposite. Where is this turning? Klapi laya, it seems just the opposite. But the crown, the keser, is a much higher level. So if when there is only a revelation of the ray, you need to have, it's impossible without a garment. You need the garments. That in him and through the garment, Yusag Haziv, will the ray be understood. So when you have a revelation of only Haziv, you still need those garments. Without the garments, you cannot grasp the Ziv. Just like it is impossible to see. He brought down the mashal before. Godel, you can't see a big light. Ella al yidei hefsek zechuchis al derech mashal. Only through an interruption from a glass is the way to be able to see it. So, in that case, the question is, Eich bizgalus hakeser nemar tzeno mahalavushim. So, how by the revealing of Keser, when we talk about the Torah, we say tzeno reno, go out from the levushim. Tzeno mahalavushim or eno b'Torah, and you will see the Torah. How is that? Cool. So that's the question that he presents over here from the pasuk from the Mamer that he explained earlier. Yuvon says, so we can understand this. Al derech hamavur beitz chayim be'inyan klolus yedidas hachayus v'hamshocha hashefa. There, with the Eitz Chaim explains generally how the vitality and the flow descends me'oir ein sof baruch hu b'chlolus kol ha'hishtalshlus. How it comes down from the blessed light of the Ein Sof, blessed be He from His light, in the general hishtalshlus. So we have two types of flows. The hashpah, the flow that comes milmaylo, there is two types of flows, generally speaking, that comes from above, in general, to the worlds. Ha'alef, one of them who habov and nimshach tomid milmaylo lamata. There's one flow which comes and extends constantly from above to below. Av gam shaloi al yidei isaruso dilatato v'ha'alo asman. Even not through the arousal of below and bringing up the feminine water, it means milmato rak nimshach me'elov milmailo, but rather this comes by itself from above. Mitzad chofetz chesedu. Eberster chofetz chesedu. Hashem wants kindness. So it's the kindness of Hashem which constantly gives a flow into this world. As the pasuk says, that Hashem renews with His kindness every day, constantly the act of creation. He's always recreating. Level of the descent of this hashpah, of this flow, im hiyois shoyresh yiridoso hu mitzad, even though the root of the descent is mitzad oitzem, the powerful of Rav Tu v'Chesed Elyon. This comes from the powerful lots of good and the supreme kindness, from the light of Ein Sof Baruch Hu Mamish. That means it's a very high madrege from where it comes from. It does not descend only from the external. The external of this high level, but not from the internal of that light. Yes, it's a very powerful, great, magnificent light, but what we get, what comes down in Hamshocha Milmayla Lamata on its own, is only external, but not from the internal of the light. ולכן גם כן אין מאיר ומסגלה בהם, לי יש בהם אין איזה שינוי ותוספת על מדרגוסי. That's why it does not shine and reveal in them, there's no change or addition to the level. That constant chayit just keeps on repeating and renewing that which is there. That comes chitzonius and it's always there. Elo rak l'chadish hayishenos sheloi techsar v'loi tadiv chulu. It is only that it comes to renew the old so that it's not gonna be lacking, but also not extra. That is the hamshocha which comes on its own, milamaylo, to continuously revitalize. Ayin b'hagdomas Morein Reb Nosson Shapiro b'Pri Etz Chaim. So over there it says ulizeh heim shoyafim. So the lashon over there will be inyan zeh ein lohem chelik b'tachtonim klal. In that aspect, there is no part in the bottom at all. We don't affect that. That comes by itself. Yesh oidrav telas b'avadisenu, but there is a further advantage when we serve. The Yitosefes, that brings addition chulu. To the extent that what is their normal amount, the kitzvah that they get on a regular basis from the continuous flow, is considered very little relative to this new that you do through the work. That is which relates to the work of the person. That will be the second level over here. We'll be discussing that flow that the person works through isaruso deletato, that the person's work, the addition, is tremendous. That's the Bechina Shenis. Bechina Shenis, what is the second level? Bechina's hashpo habo v'nimshach mibchinas pnimius yosef. That is a flow that comes and extends inner level. Yoser the hashpo horishoina more than the first flow. Comes from in it more than the first flow. The yesh bazeh milas umadreges and kates. There is many steps and levels endlessly. How much it comes down. And through this additional light, so the worlds will be refined, a tremendous refinement. That will be relative to the light and the revelation. That causes a refinement because that comes down in a pnimistic way. And the level of this inner flow, that comes through the elevation of the Mayim Nukvim, the Asaruso de Latata. That is the subjugation and the elevation from below to above, the Ishakis Azriya, Isaruso de Latata, the Mayim Nukvim, then Davke will this Hamshocha light and extend and come down. Shnei B'chinas Eilu says in the parentheses, Shnei B'chinas Eilu Mashakosu B'sidra Harizal B'kavonas Kriya Shema is that which is written in the Harizal Siddur, in the intentions of the Shema, reading the Shema, that comes from the Pri Etz Chaim in the Shar of the Krishma, Perigvo Perigdav. Over there it talks about Ki Yesh Beis Mine Yichudim Ba'avo. There's two types of union of Yichud in Avaim and Chochma Ubina. Two of them. Ha'achad, one of them is Zivuk Pnimi Da'avo. That's a inner zivug, mating of chokhmah. That is the second level. That's not the constant. The second level we discussed before. This is not a constant one. Rak al yidei aliyas man. That only comes through the elevation of mayim nukvim, of the feminine waters, from Zov and Nukva, that bring about the Yichud Avo. Al Yidei Tfiloseinu Mitzvoseinu Chulu, that is accomplished through our doing. We do what we daven and we do mitzvahs. The zivug beis, and the second zivug, who zivug chitzoni is davo. That's the external zivug of the mating of avo. Vurak li chayis ha'oilmas. That's just for vitalizing the world. Kiyum hachrachi, the necessary sustaining. You need to sustain the world all the time. So there's always amshacha from the yichud avo, but that's only external. That does not interrupt, because it cannot be without chayis. Can't wait for the sarusa de latata to bring about the yichud of avo, to bring down the amshacha. You have to have always a chayis. So that's why that is not nifsek alone. Then Ma'atzmai sheloi al yidei mayim nukvim dezun v'loi al yideinu. That happens by itself, not through the feminine mayim nukvim, the feminine waters, not the resultat of zov nukva. And v'loi al yideinu, not through us, not through our Torah, not through our mitzvahs. That comes down by itself all the time. Chenu beitz chaim shara zivugim perik aleph u'b'shara nesira reish perik beis. By Mashakosov means Zebedibur Hamaschil Sois Osis Bashem. By Mashakosov Bebiur Apostle Zocher Hashem Shabbos Lekache. By Mashakosov Bemokamacharam Bimaimeram Hazoyar Parshas Pinchas. Dafresh Memtes explaining over there. The note says Ve'aolas Legoi Tura de Chashoy, because it goes up to this dark mountain. That means when the Malchus goes up to the level of Avo, that's the Aliyah. And from there is the passage for the food, meaning the Amshocha comes to the Sarusa de Latat. So based on this, we can understand Yuvon Inyan Hanal will understand the previous idea that we asked. We said the ish mazriya tichilo yoledes nekeva. When the shocha comes from the Milo, that the ish is mazriya tichilo, then the birth is a nekeva. The hainu kisheha his oirus b'neshamas Yisrael nimshach mibchinas. When the awakening, the arousal by the Neshamas Yisrael comes from the level of the Isarusa de Le'ela, that comes on its own, that level of chayis, that level of zivuk that comes all the time, and although that awakening, that arousal, is from a place and a very high step. It's high because why does that flow come all the time? Is hu ki chafetz chesed hu. So that means because Hashem wants kindness, which is a very high madrega. As it was when the world was created. That when the world was created, before there was the Yidden to do Torah mitzvahs, to be the Sarusa de Litato, It came mitzad ki chofetz chesed. Came milamaila. So while it is a very high madrega, omnam im kol zeh, but yet einoi nimshach umeir lahem behem elo b'bchinas chitzoniyos. So this does not extend and shine to them, but in a external level. Okay, now, and as we said before, shenikro zivuk chitzonius the av ve'em. That is called an external mating of chokhmah or bina. Ve'alkein. And therefore, av kishenimshach mizeh hoilodo v'hispilus b'knesses Yisrael, even when from this extends a birth and an excitement in Knesset Yisrael from that zivug avavo, urak v'chinas yiledus nekeva. It's only giving birth to a nekeva, shehu katnus ha'ava, which is a small, a miniature love. Mashen came b'chinas ha'yisarusa d'le'ela haba milmayla lemata b'neshamas Yisrael, as opposed to when that arousal of above that comes from above to the Yidden in the Shamas Yisrael, through first introduction of the level of bringing up the Mayim Nukfim, these oiderus, the arousal from below, b'bchinas bitl v'sarusa dilatato milamato l'mayla dafka, in a way of bitl, subjugation and arousal, an awakening from below. Milmayla mato dafka. V'inyan isha mazras chila. That is the idea that we say that the woman is mazriyat chila, that it's milmato l'maylo. Azai ha'isarus odilei lopoyel liyoi. So then that arousal from above impacts that it should be the love that you're going to create. The birth is going to be a zachar, which is a great love. But the reason is lefi shisarus or dilatatazu nimshach mi b'chinas pnimis, because that is come from the inner. It comes from the inner. That's the inner level of yichud, the yichud of pnimis. Nimshach lahem gamkein, and it extends to them also b'chinas pnimine, inside v'gilui liv poel ulaholid b'hem avarabu pnimis halev, to impact them this great love and the inner of the heart. Continue base. After Yuvon Gamkein. Okay, so this explains the Mazriyat Chilo. So what it means, it may be a very high level, maybe the level of Keser, the level of Atorah, but that's what we're going to learn now. But the Sarusa de La'ela comes by itself from the level of Chofetz Chesed, but it's only Chitzonius. And therefore the impact is a level of Chitzonius. But the impact that we have from the Sarusa de Letato that precedes it, the Sarusa de Leilo, that's something which is a more lasting one. So now, now we'll understand the idea that you can leave, go out of the levushim in order to get the Torah. The hine hahefresh ben Torah lemitzvos lematahu. What is the difference that we have between Torah and mitzvahs that we do here below? Is ki ha-Torah hu ha-biur v'ha-seichel. Torah is the explanation, that's the intellect, lefaresh kol protein yonei ha-mitzvahs, to articulate, to explain all the details of the mitzvahs, eich u'ma la'asosim, how and what to do them. V'nimtzo, turns out, Shaha-Torah b'chinas ha-pnimis, that the Torah is the inner. That's the idea, the intellect explanation. And the mitzvahs are external. V'im kol zeh, and notwithstanding this, all this, so while the mitzvah, the actual mitzvah, is only the chitzonius, and the Torah is the pnimis, but yet hareguf ha-mitzvah davke he etzem ritzonius barach. It's the actual mitzvah itself is what is Hashem's will. Afal pi shehu rak chitzonius u'maisa levad. Even though it's only external, it's only an action. V'hat Torah, but that's what the Torah wants. That's what the Eibishter wants. That notwithstanding, that's just the action. The Eibishter wants the Maisa. V'hat Torah afal pi shehi b'chinas pnimis. The Torah, although it's the inner. Kol makom hare'eino rak hapirush eichu matiyos ha'mitzvah. Yet, it is only the explanation how and what the mitzvah do. V'nimtzo ha-mitzvah hu ikar. Turns out that the mitzvah is the main. V'ayin mashekosu beparshas bahaloischo bedibur hamaschil ro'isi v'hine menoi rezov chulu einshol. V'lochein, the Rebbe says we have like a mitzvah. Within a mitzvah itself, we see that the action is the most important part of a mitzvah. Lochein. Afilu ba-mitzvah atzma, even within the mitzvah itself. Let's say, which is gabe the mitzvahs of chalitza. So it says, there's a mitzvah the woman has to read and say before the man who doesn't want to give her chalitza, so that doesn't want to miyabim her, it only gives her chalitza, she has to say. So we have these two aspects. She takes off the shoe, the choltz and nihilus takes off the shoe, and then we also have she reads. So between the two, she yesh bo kriyo maisa, that it has both. You have to read, and there's also the action. Isa b'mishnah, so we say in the Mishnah, kocho ye ose, so should be done. So when it says the pasuk kocha, so she ose, so we say it's a double language. So shall be done. That kol davar shehu maise ma'akiv. That any aspect which is an act in the mitzvah holds back. You can't fulfill the mitzvah if you don't do everything. Aval kriya, but the reading that you have to read, loy ma'akve, that does not hold back. That does not prevent the mitzvah of taking place of chalitza. So you see, even in the mitzvah itself, so you see that action is the foundation in every item. So within a mitzvah itself, the doing is what is the most important part. That's why we find that our sages of blessed memory spoke very greatly about action. Mamer, the pasuk says there, Reishis, the Reishis Chochma, Yiras Hashem, Seichel Toiv L'chol Oiseihem. A Seichel Toiv it's a good Seichel for all that do them. But it says the Reishis Chochma, so Lilimdehem Loinamar Elo Liloiseihem. Doesn't say those who study. It says those who do. There's actually two versions in the Gemara, but this is the version that Tosfos brought down, always Chassidus. Limdeim loinemar, not enough to learn, and not for the learning, but it's for the doing. And also, there's another statement that also says as well, V'loi hamedrash hu ha'ikar el hamais. It's not the study which is the main, but the action. Afal pikein, and still mipnei sha Torah hibchinas pnimis, because the Torah is pnimis. So that's why also for that level, because it's pnimis, that they have spoken highly in the advantage of Torah even more than the mitzvahs. As we see in the Yerushalmi in the first chapter of Peah, V'chad Omar, that one opinion says, afilu kol mitzvah shel Torah neshoves ledover echad min Torah. Pasuk says, v'chol chafotzeho lo yishubo. Afilu cheftzei shemayim. That all mitzvahs of Torah are not valued even to one for the Torah. So the Torah is greater. So you see, there is in some places we say that the mice is the greatest. And that's why le'oiseyim, you have to do it. But then we also have the level in which it's lemteim. So he says, Ushneim emes. They're both true. And as he's going to further continue to explain how we have it in our Maaseh HaMitzvahs.